My name is Antônio Terceiro. This is Squad BoF. So Squad is the project that powers Qa-reports.linaro.org. The idea here is to have an open discussion. I don't have a great number of slides. Just some information to start. Since the last Connect, we have quite a number of new features. So we now have a self-service interface where you can create and manage your own projects and groups. So before that, you always needed someone on the admin side to create your stuff. So now a lot of the initial setup can be done by yourself. You can just go there, create an account, and create project. We also have now support for internationalization. We have a few completed translations of the UI. We also now support archived projects. So if you have a large list of projects and some of them are obsolete, you can mark them as archived, and they'll still be available, but they'll just disappear from the main listing. So you don't have like thousands of projects. The notification emails also have metric-related information now, so you can, for instance, define some thresholds on metrics, and then be notified if some of your metrics exceeds or goes below the threshold. And you can choose if the threshold is for better, or it's greater is better, or lower is better. So it will check for you on each build. We also made several improvements to the shard support and did improvements to the build comparison. And the idea here is to discuss your experience with Qa-reports, what can be improved, and what should be our focus in the future. So we have lots of ideas of stuff that needs to be improved, but we can also have new perspectives on that. So that's what I have as far as slides go. So now we can have an open discussion. There's one here.
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, or the feature that gives me most of sleepless nights is notification on determining when the build is finished. So that's something that I would like to have improved as quickly as possible. But that's also not a trivial problem to fix.
Yeah, we also need to improve how we queue tasks, background tasks. So right now, if we have lots of slow fetches, so fetching data from Lava sometimes takes a while, either because there is a lot of data or because we have some performance problem with the fetching process. And then if you had several workers blocked on fetches, then the submissions get delayed. So
I guess
we also have to fix that.
This might be not easy, but yeah, there is a way to fix it by splitting the queues and then have workers to work just on the fetching queue. And for example, the quick task can be assigned to just a single worker. But there is a clear path to fix this problem, or try to fix this problem with build notification, build finished signal. I don't know how to do it. Dan, do you have anything to add? No. So let's go.
I have other topics I can raise. So something that's been troubling me is that so ARM has their own like test data collection Django application. Red Hat just wrote their own test reporting and like data gathering application. And I noticed that it's a lot of Linaro in this room, and I wonder how we can get other people running Squad rather than everybody doing their own over and over and over again.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we can probably do a better job of advertising.
Yeah,
I mean,
Red Hat wrote one this year. Yes. They rolled it out 2 weeks ago, I'm told.
they...
We don't evangelize it enough.
Yeah.
It might not be too late for them, but...
Didn't they have a fork of Squad at some point?
No, so I talked to the person who was working on it at Plumbers, and he said that he thinks they evaluated Squad a while ago, and my impression was that they wanted it to be more, less generic, more specific to their use cases. And that's similar reasons why I think ARM has one where they want to be able to write their own features for their use cases.
How do you...
We could talk to somebody from Red Hat.
Okay.
He's not here, but I could go grab him.
Yeah, I remember a few times we pushed back on LKFT requests because there was stuff that only made sense in the context of testing the kernel. And yeah, maybe we need a solution to that, having a way of overriding things locally or something like that.
Yeah, to me it's not a big deal because Squad supports plugins and you can do a lot of things downstream of Squad, which is probably the more correct place to do a lot of specific stuff.
Anything else? So yeah, one idea I had discussing with the LabWeb team is that we currently don't compress our logs, and we could save a lot of space in the database by doing that. So maybe that's something we want to work on. That seems to be easy enough. And
is this something supported by Postgres?
Good question. I don't know, but we don't need to require support from Postgres. We can just compress it ourselves. It's easy enough to do. They are there because it was the easiest way to do, and then every component of Squad except of the database and the queue are stateless, so you can just throw everything out and create again. And you don't depend on stuff on the file system or anything. So we evaluated at some point moving to S3, but then it would be a lot of engineering work for no reason, because database storage on Amazon is cheap enough, and we just increase the size of the DB there, and it's fine. But then if we compress, I mean, it helps people who cannot have like such a large database, and also helps us because it would take longer before we need to go and increase the storage again.
While we're here, I think it's better for us to decide about the Linux log parser thing. If we go to Squad plugins or if it goes to the core. Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah,
okay. We'll decide later.
We play ping pong to decide that. Who won? We will play, yeah, still. Yes. So my idea is to have the plugins that are generic enough that can be used by anyone who's using Squad should be in Squad itself, and then we have a separate package with linear-specific plugins that are tied to the way we run test suite. So the trade-fed plugin is specific to the way we run CTS and VTS, as far as I know. And then there's another one that I don't remember the name now, but I think the kernel log parser can be in Squad, because anyone storing kernel logs in Squad can use the same plugin, as long as it generates test results with some reasonable schema.
My take on that is that it's specific to kernel, so it doesn't belong to Squad. So that's my understanding. So if it does not apply to any project, that should not be in Squad.
You mean every project?
Well,
it doesn't apply to every project?
Yeah, every. Like, for example, we have art, right? So log kernel dmessage parser does not apply to art because there is no reason.
Okay.
So that's my. But we can decide in.
One of the issues that we have that we haven't talked about in a while is when we have missing test cases. It's not really handled in Squad. So let's say for whatever reason you don't get test results for some set of tests that you normally do.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's a legitimate problem, but we don't.
It is, but it's so again, it's not easy to solve because you can have tests missing because they were not executed because something crashed, or they are missing because someone removed them intentionally. And how do you distinguish between those two use cases? Yeah.
I don't know the answer, but it's a problem.
I know.
Yeah. So the default templates for notifications will tell you if you have some tests missing. So you see a diff between the previous build, which had pass or fail or whatever results, and then the results are not available in this build. Maybe they're missing from the custom templates. And the build comparison, the UI also highlights that. So if you are comparing two builds and they have different set of tests, you'll see entries for all the tests, and you'll see which test is missing on each build.
Oh, but not the build list view. The build list view that has like the
corrections
and fixes, it's not there, right?
Yeah, not there.
No.
Yeah, so maybe in our template we could count those. That would be useful for us. Count the number of
Missing or added, because this is like both ways, right? So if you had something and it's missing, so it's missing. If it wasn't there before and it's added, then it's.
Yeah, that might be useful to see.
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, that's good. If they ran the previous time. But that would respect the baseline argument too in the API, right?
Yeah.
As a custom baseline.
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah, it should.
That would work.
Yeah. On the API, you already have a baseline, so it will always generate a comparison for you. It's just a matter of accessing the right property of the environment and listing. Yeah.
The other problem we have to work around a lot is duplicate test results. It'd be nice if there's some way to handle duplicate test results where if a test gets run twice, that it doesn't throw one away.
Yeah, we have a plan to handle that.
So we're kind of deciding to have like a bucket of tests. So if a test has run twice, so instead of being duplicated, it's just going to be like in the same bucket, just like with the boot results. So we can determine, like, for example, especially in the LKFT case, we have plenty of boot results. And then with threshold, let's say, of 50%. So if half the boot results have failed, so we're going to say, hey, the boot for this build had failed. So I think is that what you're asking?
Well, we've talked about reporting those as a metric. Is that what you're saying? Or are you saying that there would be a new concept? No. Just converting the test to a metric.
Yeah, the idea is to get the duplicated test results and count. I mean, and have a threshold. If you have more than half passing, then it's pass. Otherwise, not. And then you can choose what threshold you want to use. So it's pass if like 80% of them pass, or you can put the threshold that's 100%, and if anything fails, then it's fail. That's the idea of composing multiple pass-fail into the single result.
Yeah, those are regular tests, but in the case of LKFT, so for the same build, we have many test runs. So each test run has a boot test. So like if a single boot has failed, we're still going to consider that the boot for this build, it was successful. But if, let's say, 5 had failed, so we're just going to consider that boot for this build had failed. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so while we're here, Miller asked about defining a way to determine when a build has finished. So we can discuss that, because we're gonna go back to our home next week, and we're gonna have to discuss on IRC. If we can have some ideas, because right now the state that it is, we go through the environments and check how many test runs are expected, and if there is no test runs set, I think we just wait for the latest one to be received in squad, and then we mark that build as finished. But then in case of, especially in LKFT, there's plenty of test runs, and it sometimes takes like hours and hours. So how can we determine a finished state?
Is it a problem for the ones where squad is managing the lava jobs, or is it only a problem for ones where it's not? Because for the lava jobs, it seems, what's the problem? Like if the lava jobs are done, then it's done.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, but if you're missing, or you change the number of your jobs.
But squad knows how many jobs belong to the build.
Yeah, but then it,
Oh, you're saying if more are coming that haven't been submitted yet?
yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, so right now we have some...
I mean, there's timers in there now, but those are hard. They're easy to configure, like goof up.
Yeah, currently we use heuristics, but a different approach would be to have a test plan, and they will specify exactly what you expect, but then it creates a new set of problems, because if you want to change your test plan, then you need to go explicitly on squad and change it again. So maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, we don't set test runs because, in my experience, what's happened is a lot of times we just stop getting reports because something will change. Like we'll have we'll change something, and then we'll have one less test run, and then we never get the right number of test runs, and then we never get the reports because the builds are never finished and stuff like that. So I set all of our test runs to 0 because of that part isn't useful. I'd rather get a report eventually than never get a report.
Are we having...
and if the test runs is null, then like, I can't remember how this works, but builds never finish. I have to make sure I set them to 0. We've had that happen.
0 and null should be the same.
The default is
no?
empty, like empty field, which I don't know what that means in the back end. Okay. And if that's the case, then we have a lot of builds that don't finish. I don't know what circumstance that is.
Are we having... What are the kinds of problems that we are still having there with regards to finishing builds? Are we
if
still
I go and put a 0 in all the test run fields for each environment, we don't have a problem. But if we introduce a new environment, or I create a new project and I forget to put zeros in all the define all the environments and put a 0 in all the test run fields, then they'll just be, those builds will be spinning. You know what I mean? They will never finish. Yeah. So I just make sure I put 0 in all those fields, and I put all the environments in when I make a new project, so that I can put a 0 in all the fields, so that if an environment doesn't show up or for whatever things happen, the build's finished when the test jobs are done.
Yeah, but then you have the problem where if some of the test jobs fail for some reason, they don't produce any results, and we still have that, right? When in complete jobs, something failed in the lab, or the kernel is broken, or...
Yeah, but it doesn't cause the build to never finish.
Okay.
I don't think. Naresh, do we have builds that don't finish in squad and Qa-reports, where they don't send the reports? We don't have that happening right now, do we? You know what I mean? Yeah. Missing a job once in a while isn't a big problem for us. We just ignore it.
We still have 10 minutes.
You can go to lunch early.
Oh, nobody? Well, then that is it. Let's go to lunch.
All right. Thanks.